Capsuleer Day 23 is here. There's great rewards to be had, and I'm going to show you how to take on the cruiser level combat site, the Warpath Defense Grid, and I have a fit for you to use, one for each empire. EVE Online is too big to explore alone. Let's explore it together. Welcome back everyone, I'm Lynn Rankin. I've spent a long time in New Eden, and I'm here to share what I've learned and continue to learn in this amazing game we call EVE. The new Warpath combat sites are certainly complicated to say the least if you don't know what you're doing the first time around. That's where I come in. I've completed all 5 tiers of the Warpath Mercenary event activity, almost got the extraction loot stolen from me, then got stolen from, made friends with strangers and shared loot, and discovered tips and tricks to make your effort easier the first time you take on the site, and how to do this solo. Before we start, the combat site does still cause standing loss, and CCP has not fixed this yet as of this video, so be cautious and keep up with the patch notes. To begin, here's the layout of what happens in these Warpath combat sites, in particular the defense grid. More complicated than the frigate-sized defense complex, but not as lengthy or difficult as a war grid. Hello everyone, cutting in here very quickly. Don't forget to go to your overview settings and type in Warpath and enable all of the entities so that way you can actually target them. When you first warp to a defense grid, 3 warpable beacons spawn in space, all within around 100,000 kilometers from each other. The goal is to get as many of the 3 defense grids up to 5 minutes of total time captured, or 300 seconds. One complex will have 90 seconds already captured, another will be at 120 seconds, and another will be at 150 seconds. You will need to defend and move between the 3 grids as you progress through the site, and you have 25 minutes to defend at least 1 grid in order to collect loot. Reports suggest that the loot appears to double with each grid you successfully defend for 5 minutes, though I've not personally tested this fully and would love to hear your results in the comments below. Enemies will spawn in groups of 3 to 4, and each will have 2 types, 1 DPS type and 1 warp disrupting type. I've put their names up on screen for you to refer back to. There is a chance that a mercenary will spawn with the wave. In fact, most waves will have a mercenary, and they are the greatest threat and should be taken out first. With the fits I have at the end of the video for you, there shouldn't be any risk for your ship outside of these mercenaries. Once all enemies in a wave have been dealt with, you will start capturing the grid, and your timer starts ticking up. Note that when you first warp to a grid, you will have warp invulnerability for 10 seconds. Meaning that for those 10 seconds, if you do not move or engage or do anything, those 10 seconds will not count. So at least nudge your ship after you exit warp, otherwise you will lose 10 seconds of capture time. You have NPC defenders with you as well, 3 to 4 cruisers, and they will assist you and stave off enemies while you're at other grids, but they can be destroyed. They do respawn after they have been completely wiped out, but when that occurs and you are not there, the enemy ships will start reversing your progress on a grid until you arrive and pause the timer by staying within the capture circle. You will notice that multiple grids will be attacked at a time. Keep a mental note of which grid has the most defenders still alive, and prepare to go to the grid with the least defenders first. Don't be shy to use them as a meat shield to ensure you have time to actually capture grids. No point in putting out fires if you don't make progress in your site. Here is my strategy that I employ. Take out the enemies within the first grid I arrive in. If that grid has 90 seconds in it, I then stay in that grid until I've captured it up to at least 120 seconds. From there, I move on to the next grid, whichever is lowest, take out enemies that are present and start applying progress to those. Eventually, you will have all 3 grids comfortably at 200 seconds. If a grid becomes contested, you want to review the following mental checklist. Does that grid have at least 2 defending ships? Does the grid I'm in have at least 2 defending ships? If either of those questions are yes, start aligning towards the grid that is being contested, but continue applying progress to your current grid. As soon as the contested grid changes to capturing, then immediately warp to it. A quick shortcut is you can right-click the progress bar for each grid to warp to them rather than searching in the overview. As you warp away from your current site, if there is no one contesting it, you will notice you gain an extra 3 to 5 seconds of time as you are leaving the grid. Use this to your advantage and save some time when you are nearing 300 seconds. Eliminate the enemies at the grid that was getting captured and stand by in that site until the defenders respawn and you've added an extra 30 seconds. Stay on that grid as long as possible until another site becomes contested with less than 2 defenders, or a site you thought had enough defenders has been left alone for too long. Immediately prioritize the least progressed grid that starts getting captured rather than contested. Once you capture your first grid and get it to 300 seconds, your job becomes much easier and you guarantee at least some loot for your effort. Repeat these steps until all grids have been defended. Before we get on to extraction, you may be wondering why I have a Salvager equipped to my Osprey Navy Issue. In fact, all of the fits that I have at the end of the video have a Salvager equipped. That is because pirate faction mercenaries sometimes spawn in the site, and when destroyed, they drop a container that needs to be salvaged that has the potential to contain extra loot. I've encountered the Phantasm twice now, and so far no extra loot, so I can't say for sure what is inside them. If you get a pirate faction mercenary spawn and salvage it, let me know if it has anything inside. I want to make sure that you collect the loot for your hard work, so I'm going to share with you a tip that should help you get a better chance of beating someone to it if you have uninvited people helping secure the site. In other words, just waiting for you to complete the work and steal from your effort. I want you to open your probe scanner and click on the solar system map icon. Once it opens, don't rotate or move the view on the map view. It's automatically oriented in a north-south arrangement top to bottom. Now set your directional scanner to the maximum range it can and set it to a narrow cone. Align your camera so that the cone in the system map appears and points north or towards the top of your screen. The extraction point, so far from completing a decent dozen of these defense grids, will spawn to the north of the site. And if you know where north is, when the last grid is almost defended, you can double click in space and start aligning to where your camera is pointing. Hold down the S key and hover over the bottom of the overview. This locks your overview, and any new entities that appear will appear at the bottom rather than mixed in with the results near the top. As soon as the extraction point appears in your overview, while holding the S keybind, you spam click on the extraction point until you enter warp. Then get to the supply cache as quickly as possible and loot it. No matter what grid you are currently in, the extraction point will either be directly system north or just northeast or northwest. Still, you save yourself some align time and beat someone who is not aligning at all. This should give you enough head start if you have another cruiser that is trying to steal your loot. Though if someone is in a frigate or a shuttle, sadly they will get to it first. I recommend finding a quiet-ish area of high sec or even quieter areas of low sec. Just be sure to check Z kill board and plan out your low sec day trip ahead of time. One thing you can attempt to do if someone is attempting to steal your loot is at least try to extend some friendship. For one defense grid, I had done most of the work, but 2 other cruisers came in. I looted the container first, but I acknowledged that near the end it was a team effort. So I advised in local to come to a certain station and I would open trade and share the earnings. I gave the person 100 million ISK and some of the Warpath intels based on that I received a 300 million ISK implant drop. It's not guaranteed you'll run into someone willing to split loot or acknowledge theft and make it right. I definitely had a Gila trying to steal my loot for 2 seconds of effort, but it's worth the effort to respectfully extend a hand, and you never know, with Eve, you may ripple effect kindness across this world and event. On to the fits. I actually have, for a change, have one for each empire. These are all relatively inexpensive, and they all got their start from the Urs.live guides. But because of the pirate mercenaries, I've modified the fits to include salvagers. You can have Tech 1 or Tech 2 salvagers, but it's good to have these just in case there may be good loot with these faction spawns. Each of the Empire cruisers are suited for their particular Empire space. Since if you don't know, each Empire ships get bonuses when operating within their territory. So be sure to use the Osprey Navy Issue only in Caldari space, the XXIII Navy Issue in Galente space, and so on. Otherwise, you are missing out on some great bonuses and the higher warp speeds. I've left the links to my modified fits with salvagers below, as well as Urs.live, where some of the information is from, and where I got the basis for the Osprey Navy Issue. This ONI is amazing. In my next video, we'll be covering the strategic infiltration exploration sites, and avoiding a lockdown is absolutely critical. Subscribe so you don't miss it. If you want to see an overview of the Capsuleer Day event, as well as CCP buying themselves back from Pearl Abyss, be sure to check out this video to get all the latest event and EVE news that just happened. Consider liking and subscribing, and using my creator codes to show your support. Thank you to my amazing YouTube and Patreon members, and welcome to our newest members, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.